Okay, let's get started. I want to welcome everyone to the July 16th, 2019 hearings before the Baltimore Municipal Zoning and Appeals Board. A few preliminary items before we get started. Please turn off cell phones or other devices that make noises. If you need to have a conversation, please take that conversation out into the outer hallway because cell phones, other devices, and conversations are disruptive to the proceedings here, and they also interfere with the recordation of the proceedings, so we actually ask you to take those out into the hallway. We have a case that has been, I understand, will be postponed, and that case is 2019-215, 1903 Alisana Street. Is anybody here for that case? Okay. Then we will not take any action on postponing that case. We have another case where we have a posting issue, and that case is 2019-213, 728 South Conkling Street, Alesso Cardillo.
I'm the contractor for that project.
You want to come up? Okay, you're not on the record yet, but you can get the name. And Mr.
On the record.
Okay, okay.
So we inspected the property, and the sign posting just isn't sufficient. It's behind the window, like you can't read it. Gotcha. Unfortunately, that just doesn't meet code. So you're going to have to repost the property. We can get you back on the next hearing date, which would be July 30th.
We did send a photo saying it was posted up there for quite a while.
Yeah, but it wasn't posted correctly. So,
meaning that like we have photographs showing that it was on the outside.
Yeah, but it needs to be on the outside for the statutory period of time. And if Mr. Baumgartner saw it was not there, then it wasn't there for the period of time that's required.
we can reissue the posting notice. So give us a call tomorrow morning, and then we can reissue that posting notice by email, or we can have you pick it up, whichever you prefer, and then we can get you back on the docket for the July 30th docket.
July 30th.
Yes. So it's 2 Tuesdays.
2 weeks from now. All right.
Okay.
Do I need anything else?
Nope, that's it.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, generally, we're going to vote on the appeals as they're heard today at the end of the docket, and anyone who wishes to stay certainly can. Otherwise, you can call the office tomorrow and get our decision. The phone number for that is 410-396-4301. I'll read that one more time. 410-396-4301. Please do not build in Baltimore City without the proper permits. For the cases we hear today, our written decision will be issued in approximately 2 to 3 weeks. First, I want to address cases for which opposition is signed in. We have found that those cases are sometimes resolvable if the parties have the opportunity to talk, and we would like to encourage that. We will decide the case on the basis of the law, but it really does help sometimes if people talk. So we have a couple of cases for which opposition is signed in. So I'll call your case number. Just stand up. You don't need to come up. First case is 2019-212, 2516 Maryland Avenue. And who is in opposition to that? You're in opposition? Who's the appellant? You're the appellant? 2516 Maryland Avenue, yeah. Have you guys had a chance to talk?
No.
Would you like to?
Sure.
Sure.
I'm always willing to talk, but I'm not sure as I understand it, his proposal is to go from, the zoning is 2 residential.
Well, we don't want to get into the merits of the case now. This is if you guys want to have a conversation to try to understand or work through differences, that's fine. If not, that's fine too. It's up to you guys. If you guys go outside and we'll call you when you come back in. Next case, 2019-214, 3427 Hickory Avenue.
Those parties are already outside.
They're talking? Okay, great. And 2019-216, 1634 Gwynns Falls Parkway. You're in opposition? Who's the appellant for that case? Hope LaCour?
Yes.
Oh, you're here, okay. Have you all had a chance to talk?
No.
Would you like to?
Yes. Yes.
Sure, great, thank you. And then the next case for which opposition has signed in is 2019-222, 3006 Hamilton Avenue. Anthony Taylor? You, Mr. Taylor?
Yes.
Okay, and you're in opposition?
Yes, sir.
Have you guys had a chance to talk?
Unfortunately, I'm representing, as you know, I work for the Harbell Community Organization umbrella. I'm representing Glen and Bell Park Community Association. none of their representatives are here today, and I really can't negotiate for them.
But you're in opposition?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, we'll call your case in turn. Next, we want to call cases for which the zoning board and zoning board staff have examined and for which we believe we have sufficient information to approve the appeal. I'm going to call several cases at once, and I will ask you to line up starting here and then moving to my left as in the order that I call the cases. First case is 2019-217, 102 South Washington Street, Kathleen McDonald. Next case, 2019-218, 605 South Durham Street. 2019-221, 5005 to 5007 York Road. Next, 2019-223, 1900 to 1902 South Hanover Street. And finally, 2019-224, 1400 West Lombard Street. Okay? Once you all get up to here, we'll have everybody sworn in.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, first case, 2019-217, 102 South Washington Street. You state your names for the record, please.
Aaron Resnick. Amir Whitaker.
And the appeal was filed by Kathleen McDonald. Can you tell me your relationship to Ms. McDonald?
We're the contractors.
Okay, okay. And we have this to construct first floor rear screen porch addition, correct?
Correct.
Great. Do we have any staff reports?
Martin French for the Baltimore City Planning Department. Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Okay. Gentlemen, we reviewed your case and we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Next case, 605 South Durham Street. State your name, please.
Christopher Mfume.
And Mr. Mafume, we have this to construct two-story rear addition with rear and rooftop decks. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And staff reports?
Planning Department has no comment on this application. Thank you.
Mr. Mafume, we have reviewed your case and we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, 2019-221, 5005 to 5007 York Road. State your name, please.
Eliza Hertzmark.
And Ms. Hertzmark, we have this to use as 9 dwelling units with first floor commercial. Is that correct?
Correct.
Great. Any staff reports?
Planning Department has no objection to approval of this application. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Hertzmark, we've reviewed your file and we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you.
Thank you.
2019-223, 1900 to 1902 South Hanover Street.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman.
Good afternoon. Would you state your name, please?
Joseph Woolman on behalf of the applicant.
And Mr. Woolman, we have this to construct 80-foot-high mixed-use building, 258 dwelling units with retail and 370 parking spaces. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And any staff reports?
I have a letter in the file for support from City Councilman Eric Costello.
The Planning Department reviewed this application and is recommending approval, subject to the condition that all improvements authorized by the appeal or the result of the appeal, including all new construction, landscaping, and signage, are completed or installed in accordance with development plans and architectural plans approved by the Department of Planning. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Woolman, are those conditions acceptable to your client?
Yes, they are.
Good. Well, having reviewed your file, we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just hand you this for the record.
Oh, sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
And finally, on the consent agenda, 2019-224, 1400 West Lombard Street. Would you state your name, please?
Shamira Orr.
Ms. Orr, we have this to use first floor front for pack and ship store. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And do we have any staff reports?
Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this property is located in the Union Square Historic District, and therefore recommends that approval of the application be subject to the condition that all exterior changes, including additions, demolitions, alterations, and signage, are completed and installed in accordance with an authorization to proceed issued by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Orr, is that condition acceptable to you?
Yes, sir.
Good. Having reviewed your file, we have sufficient information to approve your appeal. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, now we're going to call the cases for the remainder of our docket. Next case is 2019-116, 1909 Greenmount Avenue. Good, how are you?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Mr. Dahl?
Mama Dussaw.
And what was your name, sir?
Carrie Olivas. Carrie Olivas. C-A-R-E-Y. Last name is Olivas, O-L-I-V as in Victor, I-S.
Okay. Mr. Dahl, we have this to use first floor as carry-out food shop. Is that correct?
Yes.
Great. Do we have any staff reports?
The letter in the file from the Greater Greenmount Community Association says that Greater Greenmount Community Association represents Barclay and East Baltimore Midway. This appeal property lies in the Midway area. GGCA has met several times with Mr. Saul and once with Mr. Calmer. We have explained to them what we would like to see, what they would need from us for their support of this application. We appreciate Mr. Saul's interest in bringing a business into our neighborhood, but he has not yet provided us with a business plan that addresses the needs which the community has expressed to GGCA. Therefore, we do not support this application for a zoning variance.
Okay. Mr. Dahl, tell us about your project.
The project is for a carry-out convenience store.
Mm-hmm.
And we met with the community association, and we told them the kind of how we're gonna operate the business, and we told them we was aware of the location and their concerns and how we was gonna address their concern to make sure there's no problems that come out of it. And then at the meeting they told us that they will support it. And then about I think last week Friday they sent me an email requesting more paperwork, which I was not able to get them.
Okay. And the reason you're here is you need conditional use approval and you need a variance for parking. Do you have any parking available on your lot?
It's not, it's a street, they have street parking.
Well, I'm saying on your lot, is there any available does the building cover the entire lot?
Yes. It's no parking. It's a joined building. Three businesses are joined together. The business on the corner is a vacant building, then there's our business, and then there's another convenience store, and there's another business on the corner before you get to the alley. There is no private or off-street parking.
Yeah, that's my question. There's nothing available, nothing in the back of the building or anywhere?
No, there are residences behind the business in that area.
Okay. And what would be the hours of operation of the carry-out food shop?
About 7 to 12, but it's flexible. It would depends on how well we do. That's going to determine the time. So
Roughly 6:30 in the morning to 11:30 at night.
Okay. Long day.
Pretty much.
Are there other convenience stores in this neighborhood?
there's one right next to it.
They don't sell carry-out food.
The mini mart?
Yeah, like
That's
a
our
convenience store.
location.
So this is your location, the
That's
mini mart?
One at a time.
And so this is the place that's open now?
Yes.
This is them. And the carryout is part of your business, at the corner?
No.
That's
That's a
vacant.
vacant building.
The one that
Wow.
says carryout is vacant. You would be the mini mart in the middle, and the store next to you
It's open now.
is open now.
All right, any other questions from the board?
What is the store next door to you sell? It's like a market?
Kind of various
It's a convenience store.
convenience items.
Grocery store.
And let me ask you one more question, just came to mind. Are you going to have any sort of security cameras, lights?
We have all that. We explained all that at the meeting, how we was gonna address those situations.
Why don't you tell us?
First, if you have a buzzing door, and a lot of the items that bring trouble, like troublemakers, we're not gonna sell it. And then, we'll have like outside cameras, and once like we have a problem with the customer, first we will talk to him so he can understand like this is not a place where you do trouble, and then we will talk to him. If he don't listen, then we will call the police to get him scored.
Okay. All right, any other questions from the board? Thank you very much. Next case, 2019-170, 300 North Gilmore Street.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
For the record, Melvin J. Kaninsky representing the applicants. Hey, come on up. Yeah, come on. Don't be afraid.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I need an interpreter. Let me does Mandarin here. Okay.
So, Mr. Giddens, okay, so you're going to present the case, your clients. Okay, that's fine. So we have this to use, where are we? We have this to use first floor as grocery/delicatessen with existing first floor liquor store. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Any staff reports?
I have one letter in the file from the Franklin Square Community Association. Says after checking with the neighbors and the members at our community meeting last night, their request was that this property would better serve the neighborhood as some kind of grocery store, eliminating liquor sales. Signed by Edith Gilliard Canty, President.
Okay, thank you.
What association was that?
Franklin Square.
Thanks.
Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this property is zoned R8 residential. Neighborhood commercial establishments are allowed as conditional uses in this particular zone, and this property would qualify physically for use as a neighborhood commercial establishment. However, neighborhood commercial establishments include retail goods establishments with no alcoholic beverage sales, and the application, although it doesn't specifically address this point, includes a floor plan which clearly showed that there would be sale of alcoholic products as well as non-alcoholic products. The department also notes that under the terms of the zoning code, there is a mandatory termination for certain uses, and retail goods establishment with alcoholic beverage sales is specifically listed in that category, to be terminated no later than June 4th of 2019. Therefore, the department believes that the board does not have any ability to extend the operation of the retail goods establishment with alcoholic beverage sales on this premises. There is also no record available to the planning department that indicated that the applicant or owner of the property at any time used the waiver for hardship provision in the zoning code and requested that the board consider a waiver for hardship to extend the time of the deadline past June the 4th of 2019. The department also notes that it received information from the Baltimore Development Corporation that it had reached out to the owner or operator of the business concerning the process for converting a non-conforming use to a conforming use, and BDC had no record that the applicant had availed himself or his business of the opportunities that were offered by BDC. The Department of Planning has no objection to an amended version of this application being approved for a new neighborhood commercial establishment with the condition that this approval, if granted, does not authorize continuation of the non-conforming retail goods establishment with alcoholic beverage sales, as would be evidenced by a revised floor plan showing display and sales of non-alcoholic products only. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Kudensky, why don't you tell us about the grocery store and then the relationship between the grocery store and the liquor store?
All right. Well, there was originally a liquor store there. Ms. Lim owned it in 2016, and then she sold to the current owners. The comprehensive rezoning under Transform Baltimore, was going to zoning them out in June, as a result of which they filed for a grocery store. That period of time has since gone by for June of this year. So they applied for the grocery store, but in the meantime, when they applied for it, the liquor store was still there. I agree that the use has, with regard to the code, with regard to the liquor store is going, so they just wanted to go forward with the grocery store portion of it. With regard to going to the BTC, and there's some historic tax credit, the problem is a language situation. They didn't want to do anything until they find out what they could do with the property.
Okay. So just to be clear, the drawing that we have shows, it appears to show a liquor store operations.
Because that's when it was filed.
That's when it was filed. So that's, I'll say amending this to reflect that it's solely going to be a grocery store.
Grocery store, correct.
Okay.
Deli.
What? In Delhi? Well, I mean, if you get, I'm sure, it'd be nice. That's okay, isn't it?
Was that what they were asking for?
Grocery deli, yeah, I mean,
grocery.
potato chips.
Yeah, grocery deli. So, does the board have any questions?
I'm trying to help.
All right,
I don't have any questions.
all right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next case is I'm going to call three cases at once, 2019-186, 2019-193, 2019-194, 104, 102, and 106 West 38th Street.
Good afternoon,
Good
James
afternoon.
Herron.
Hold on one second.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
State your name for the record, please.
James Herron.
And Mr. Herron, we have this to construct a two-story rear addition on 1004, 1002 to construct first floor infill side addition and second floor rear addition, and 1006 to construct two-story rear addition. Is that correct?
Yes.
Good. Do we have any staff reports?
Planning Department reviewed all three of these applications and has no comment on them. Thank you.
Great. So tell us a little bit about the project.
There are three individual properties. They caught on fire. They're currently vacant. They have an existing use for 2 units per building, which is what they were set up as before the fire. And we're essentially restoring the building. But we want to clean up the back of the building to make it uniform. And so they're all the same length. Looking at the back, right now it's all hodgepodged and falling apart. And there will be an existing 45-foot yard that remains beyond the building on each property,
Okay.
which can be used for parking.
Mr. Herron, you were on the docket last hearing 2 weeks ago, and then that was postponed to meet with the community.
Yes.
That meeting occurred. What took place? Was there any?
Yeah, so I met with them last week, and I also met with Shelby from the council office, and zoning sent me an email last night that says, HEC is not taking a formal position on your appeal. As you presented to us, it seems to be a relatively minor BMZA request. We don't have any evidence one way or the other on the opinion of the affected neighbors, so we feel it's best that you just go forward with your hearing. I think you will be in good shape for your hearing. Thank you for meeting with us.
Can you print that out and send it to our office, please?
Can I email it to you?
Sure.
I can just forward you the email.
It's fine.
What would that be?
I can give you my card.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Nope.
Nope. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm out of cards, but you can email.
All right, next case is 2019-210, 5723 York Road.
Morning.
Actually, good afternoon.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Good. Just state your name for the record, please.
Raymond Davis.
And Mr. Davis, we had this to add live entertainment to existing restaurant. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Good. Staff reports?
Thank you. Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that its live entertainment would consist of musical acts of 3 members, basically jazz trios, with amplification limited to 40 decibels, measured at 10 feet away from the building. The capacity of this restaurant is 75 persons. The live entertainment, according to the application, would be provided from 11 in the morning to 5 in the afternoon on Sundays. The application did not include a security plan, sanitation plan, or off-street parking plan, and the department recommends the applicant provide additional information to the board in support of this application. That said, the Department of Planning recommends that approval of the application be subject to these conditions. A copy of the use and occupancy permit for the premises must be kept on the premises and available for inspection by representatives of Baltimore City at all times. A copy of the written approval by the board of the live entertainment provided on the premises, including details of any restrictions or limitations on the live entertainment provided, must be kept on the premises and available for inspection by representatives of Baltimore City at all times. And a copy of all other permits and licenses required pursuant to the written approval of the board must be kept on the premises and available for inspection by representatives of Baltimore City at all times. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Davis, if we were to approve this, are those conditions acceptable to you?
Those conditions are acceptable. Also have letters of support from Councilman Henry and Senator Mary Washington.
Okay, very good. If you want to hand those up, we can put those part of the record. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you heard the planning department, your application was lacking a security plan, a parking plan, and Mr. French, a third, which I can't remember.
Sanitation.
Sanitation. Can you address those, please? And just generally tell us a little bit about how this is going to work.
So we're a restaurant. We've been at this location for 5 years. We've never had any problems with security, sanitation, or parking. There's off-street parking. We also use the business adjacent to us, allows us to use their parking after hours, and because they're only there from 9 to 5 during the week. On the weekends, we use their parking as well as the on-street parking, and we've never had any issues with those things.
Okay, so you're not anticipating anything beyond what you have now for those items?
No.
Okay. Okay. How many people do you expect on a Sunday afternoon when you have music?
Usually, right now, we seat about 50 people at a time, maximum, really. I don't anticipate for that to change much more than it usually is, but I want to build business a little bit more.
Okay. All right.
It's something that, like live entertainment and like jazz trios, Sunday brunch, it's something that a lot of our customers have been asking for, so we're just trying to comply to stay in business.
Okay.
The southern portion of this property has kind of large windows, I believe, that can be opened up to the open air. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you intend to have those open during the hours of live entertainment, or do you have them closed?
We generally have them open during the nicer days for fresh air, but the music won't be much louder than the music we play now.
Yeah, I guess the concern is there's a 40 decibel rating or limit that you put in the application, and if you have windows open, that could be exceeded.
Okay, so if necessary, we can close those.
And the properties across the street from you are all commercial, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
A couple restaurants, a couple like an auto shop.
3 other restaurants and a landscaping business across from us.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Nope.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next case, 2019-211, 3635 Woodland Avenue. Good afternoon.
Raise your right hands, please. Swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I do.
Great. State your names, please.
My name is Jimo Yusuf.
Excuse me. You gotta get to the microphone.
Jimo Yusuf.
Okay.
You have to spell it.
Jimoh. Jimo. Yusuf. Yusuf.
Al Arnold.
Mr. Arnold, we have this to continue wholesale auto dealer's office with tag and title and inspection service, including temporary car storage. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Staff reports?
Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this property was last authorized for use as offices for a motor vehicles wholesaler with a specific stipulation that no vehicles would be sold or displayed on the premises. That was the board's approval of a previous appeal, 2016-496 for this property. The neighborhood commercial establishment uses are limited to the reuse of an existing building that is non-residential in construction and original use. or has received prior zoning approval for a non-residential use, which would apply in this case in both ways, both the building itself and the previously authorized use. This property is located in the Park Heights Urban Renewal Area, where the urban renewal plan does not prohibit or further restrict this as a continuing conditional use, provided it complies with the requirements of the zoning code. More specifically, the department recommends disapproval of temporary car storage because approval of this activity would be equivalent to giving the office use the zoning status of a motor vehicle dealership with or without exterior display, which is a prohibited use in the R6 zoning district where the property is located. The department has no objection to addition of tag and title service to the existing office use with no vehicles sold or displayed on the premises. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Mr. Arnold, why don't you tell us about the project here, what you want to do, and also address the concerns raised by the planning department.
Okay, thank you. Right now, the use of the building is actually for, zoned for a car dealership and tag and title.
Well, car dealership, let's put a finer point on that. Car dealership, wholesale or retail?
Which one?
It was wholesale.
Wholesale, okay.
Yeah, wholesale.
So in the business right now, we're trying to incorporate the, in order to, sell a car, you have to have inspection and tag and title. So we're not really storing cars there, but people have to bring their car to get it inspected. So once you get the inspection and you pass inspection, then you can put the tags on it. So that's like a part of the tag and title. So we're not storing vehicles, but you have to bring the vehicle there, get it inspected, and then once it's inspected, then you can get your, go to wherever vehicle and get your stickers, that kind of stuff. It's like really, it's kind of confusing because we're saying car storage, but the car has to stay there until it's inspected, and then you can get the sticker and the tags, cause
Suppose it doesn't pass inspection. Do you repair the vehicle?
no repair at all. They have to, we don't do no auto mechanic repair at all. They may have to tow it somewhere and get it fixed and bring it back, but we're not, no repair, no auto repair at all. Just inspection. If it doesn't pass, then that's the question. Whoever gonna fix it, I don't know, but we don't do no auto repair.
Okay, so these cars, some of these cars are tagged, some of these cars are not tagged, is that correct?
I'll say that one more time.
Some of these cars have plates on them and some don't have plates?
Yes, some have a temporary tag that is drivable. Some, when they bring it from the auction, so they inspect it. Though there's some other mechanic at the off-street that where they can repair it, but we don't do the mechanic stuff right there.
Does the whole process take?
It's, well, like when you get a temporary tag, they give you a certain amount of time. I don't know if it's 30 days or 90 days, whatever.
No, 30 days.
So 30 days.
The inspection, so if you're saying that no cars are gonna be stored there and they're just coming to be inspected.
How long does it take to do an inspection?
Inspection within an hour is done.
An hour?
So at most, the cars are gonna be with you for an hour. No car's gonna be there overnight or for any extended period.
Sometimes when they bring car from the auction overnight, so where we don't want people to mess with people's car, so we bring it to do the inspection the following day.
They won't be there for a week or nothing. They'll just be there until they can get to it and do the
Yeah,
inspection.
so how many cars are we talking about? So you must have, if you're a wholesale dealer, you're buying at the auction?
Yeah, we buy from auction.
Okay, and then what do you do with the cars? Because as a wholesale dealer, you can't sell to the public.
We normally ship cars out. So, but when we buy from auction, so we put them in the storage so that people don't mess with it outside, breaking people's car. So we keep them safe. So we ship them out. So and we do the inspection as well if they want to use it right here.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you buy the cars. Before you ship them out, where are you storing them?
Normally, once we pick them, once we pick them from the auction, so we arrange for the tow truck, so to pick them to the port.
Okay, directly from the auction to
Yeah,
the
from
port.
the auction, sometime when it's overnight, if they can't get to the port, so we have to keep them so that they can get it to the port the following day.
So some
Okay, so you have a couple of instances where the vehicles could ultimately be sitting on your
Yeah,
property.
where cars can be saved for just temporary.
And that's
How
that's the
long?
rub here.
Yeah, that's the problem. How long? Is it more than a day or two?
It
That's-
shouldn't be more than 1 day specifically.
Well, yeah, but that's what you're not.
I understand it shouldn't be, and you would like it not to be. But the reality is,
Can we have a limit on the car has to be inspected within 3 days or something? I mean, is that something? I mean, I don't know what the
I don't know.
turnaround time
I don't know
is.
what
'cause I'm not-
storage means under the.
I mean, would they?
Ask
it's
that
not
question.
public, it's just for
It's not-
personal.
it's vague.
So I'm saying, would they give us an option, say the vehicle has to be somebody 3 day, 2 day something.
Well, our job is not to propose things to you. Your job is to tell us what you want to do, and we can tell you if it comports with
How much
zoning law.
time you take to fix the inspection of the car and get rid of it or whatever?
Yeah, it shouldn't take more than maybe 1 to 3 days, like you said.
So you can say it's a max 3
In
days.
case of
maybe.
delay or maybe the weather or stuff.
Mr. Chairman, if I can just add, so section 16803 about storage of abandoned and other vehicles, there's a provision in the code about, it says that, it's subsection B, that outdoor storage or maintenance of abandoned, derelict, or unlicensed vehicles is prohibited in all zoning districts. I believe, and Mr. French can correct me if I'm wrong, that general prohibition is to eliminate what used to be called junkyards, which are just non-conforming uses of property throughout the city. So I don't believe that the accessory uses to automotive businesses like a tag and title service or an auto repair shop, I don't believe that prohibition would flow to, those other businesses. So I think the general prohibition against outdoor storage really is more catered towards the junkyard type use and not particularly this type of use.
But one thing we need to clarify, the building is a very large enclosed building. Hold it. It's a very large enclosed building with exhaust fans and ventilation. So nothing is outside. So if you look at the site plan, the building is on the corner and there's a big door on the side where you can just tow the car in and tow it out. So it's not like outside and no outdoor junkyard. So they won't see it. That was the whole point. It's going to be inside of a masonry, fireproof, ventilated structure so they can do their inspections and then do it. So it's no junkyard. You're not going to ride by and see a bunch of cars all over the place. So that would never happen because there is no place for parking. It's just a big building that's open.
And no cars are going to be sold from this facility?
No, it's just transfer, like with the inspection and tag, and then somebody would do something.
And what's the maximum number of cars that you would have at any given time?
Probably, you should do inspection of about 3 to 5 in a day.
No, I'm talking about the maximum. What would be the maximum?
Maximum, maybe 1 to 5 or 10.
At a time?
No, not at a time.
Okay.
Inside the building, how many can
Yeah,
you
how many
store?
cars will you put in that building to inspect?
To inspect, yeah, we can inspect up to 5.
5?
So you can't have any more than 5 cars in there at any given time. What do you do with the cars if you have? Now I'll give you a fact situation. You have 3 cars in there being inspected, and you got 4 coming from the auction. So what do you do with the
Yeah,
other
we
2
do
cars?
schedule, so we don't just take everything at a time. We schedule everything out so that if we haven't finished, so we don't let them bring another one.
So
we
there's
have-
no overflow outside?
No.
Okay, okay. Any questions from the board?
No.
All right, well, thank you very much.
I just want to make sure that
Sure.
we're not storing cars. That's what they object to. It's just bringing it in, get it inspected, and then they just, it was kind of like a clarification about the description, because when they said that you can't store cars there, but nobody gonna come off the street and say, I want to store your car there. It's only coming for one purpose, and that's to get inspected so that the people can say they can get the sticker or the tag and insurance, and then they can have a real tag on the car. So it's not storage like that. It's just to put there so they can do the inspection, so they can get the tags, and then they can have everything they need. So that just, I think that was like they didn't really say it right when they said storage, because we're not storing cars. So that's what,
Okay.
I just wanted to clarify that.
All right, we hear you. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Next case, 2019-212, 2516 Maryland Avenue. Yeah, sure. 2019-212, 2516 Maryland Avenue.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name for the record, please.
My name is George Helfrich.
And Mr. Helfrich, we have this to use first floor front as office with 3 dwelling units and remainder of building. Is that correct?
Correct.
And do we have any staff reports?
Yes, thank you. The Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this proposed use is consistent with the urban renewal plan for the area, and is recommending approval of the application. Thank you.
Okay. So the way we'll do this, we have opposition here. The appellant will have the opportunity to go first. The opposition will then have a chance to address the points made by the appellant, and then the appellant will close, and that will end the hearing. Sir.
Thanks for your time. We met with the local Charles Village Association, showed them the property. It currently has, it's a 3-story row house. We have an apartment on the first and second floor. On the first floor, it's 2 offices. I maintain an office there. We've had an office there since the 60s. My dad used to have an office there. And we've had a hard time renting out an office in the rear. There's really no demand for a small office anymore, and people work out of their house. So we want to convert it to an apartment, but we don't have the extra parking space.
Okay. Is there any space available on the lot at all for off-street parking?
There are 2 spots.
You have 2 spots
Yes.
already, okay. Okay, let me hear from your opposition.
My name is Sam Dippold. I'm the current resident of 2510 Maryland Avenue, and on the 2500 block, there have been multiple buildings that have been converted into multiple dwellings, or there's more people moving into those buildings. My main concern is parking. Since they converted Maryland Avenue to a bike lane, there's been a big problem with delivery trucks that when there's no place for these big vehicles to come, and traffic is stopped, but parking is an issue for the most part with residences. It's not necessarily a problem during the day, but at night when you're trying to come home and get a spot, you have to park farther away. And there's a big problem with safety, parking farther, having to walk farther. I've been attacked in front of my home once. I've been followed many times. Specifically, I'm a bartender, so I work at night and I walk at night home. But with these additional apartments, there's a lot more cars coming onto the street, and there's less spaces available. I don't think that having an additional apartment is necessary on this block. I think that this can be done as is. It will only make the problems of parking and safety worse. So that is my complaint.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm the owner of 2510.
Could you state your name, please?
John Dippold, thank you.
Step up to the mic.
I'd just like to amplify some of the other issues with parking in the area. Is while they did convert, they added a biking lane. They did not reduce parking, but they reduced the access to the properties on Maryland Avenue, as Sam has described. It has been congested. Safety is a significant issue, not related to 2500 block, but yesterday morning, a person was killed and a police officer was shot just 4 blocks away. Crime is a serious issue. The rear access of the west side, the even side of 2500 block of Maryland Avenue, there was a building extension on 25th Street that extends to the road to 25th and a half Street. If you have I don't think you have the diagram in front of you, but it impairs the ability to get motor vehicles to the rear of those properties. And today, garbage trucks used to go, yesterday or several years ago, garbage collection was performed by the truck driving up the alley immediately behind the building. They can no longer do that. They have to go drive on May Street, walk across private property to get the trash off of the even side of 2500 Maryland Avenue. Furthermore, I think it's the state, they moved the bus depot that was on Kirk Avenue over to the lot that's at 25th and Howard Street. There are workers who drive buses, who work on the maintenance of buses in that lot, who are now parking on that block of the 2500 block of Maryland Avenue. So parking is just, overall, beyond the request of this variance, parking is being further challenged by other increased activities and changes in the city. If you allow this one, there's no the justification is somebody can't find another use. Why isn't if that's to me an economic justification? If it's justified for him to increase his number of dwelling units in a one building, why can't everybody do it? And why can't then that means that many more cars? Why can't I now have the number of units that he has? I think that has to be done. The zoning is made to make it equal for everybody, and that everybody has the same rules. And I request that zoning remain the same as it is today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Helfrich?
Sure. Where I sympathize with their issue, access to the property is not that congested spot he talks about. I'm not sure why they built that thing so far, but when you come to our place, you come from 26th Street. That said, I own a lot of property in Charles Village, and the funny thing is, a lot of people don't have a car. There's a Zip car lot across the street. There is parking lots. I know that there's a nightclub, I think probably impacts late at night parking for a while. But, for example, the folks we have in there now, one guy doesn't have a car at all, so we actually have a spot open. So I hope the impact would not be as great as they think. And we'd like to proceed.
Okay.
There are several surface parking lots south on the westbound side, the eastbound side, between 25th and 21st, I believe. Have you investigated in the ability to lease a parking spot from any of those surface parking lots?
I have not. But it probably would be doable, because there's a lot behind us. There is a lot on the corner of 26 and Maryland, and there's the apartment complex has gated lots too.
I have a question for the owner and the tenant. You live there, do you have a car?
Yes.
Do you park in a parking spot, or do you park on the street?
I park on the street mostly because.
Do you have a parking spot?
No, it's
Okay.
street parking.
Okay. And sir, do you live there as well?
Yeah, I do have a parking spot, but it's on the street.
Well, you have an assigned parking spot.
There are two parking places behind the building, 25.
Okay, so you don't have to worry about parking.
The issue is that while the safety risk is significant.
I appreciate what you're saying, sir. I would like to hear from him right now.
I do have a parking spot,
Great.
but my concern is.
No, I heard your concern. I just
Yeah.
was curious. And the owner,
other
sir.
thing I will say-
Wait, may I
Okay.
just continue and then feel free? Owner, I'm sorry, I don't remember your name, sir.
John DePaul?
Do you live in that neighborhood?
No, I used to, but I don't now.
Okay. All right. That's all I
Great.
have.
Any other questions from the board? Great. Thank you very much.
Good to meet you.
Next case, 2019-214, 3427 Hickory Avenue.
Can you come up, Mr. Preto? Since the board has the 48-hour rule, you just have to request the postponement in person.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We're requesting a postponement based on some interest from an adjacent property owner. Has started discussions this afternoon out in the hallway. We can expect to continue these discussions and hope to be back on the docket in 2 weeks if available.
Okay, postponement granted. Thank you. Okay, next case, 2019-216, 1634 Gwynns Falls Parkway.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Raise your right hands, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
Just state your name, please.
Hope LaCour.
And Ms. Accor, we have this to use as 2 dwelling units, correct?
Correct.
Right, staff reports?
I have 2 letters of opposition in the file that are essentially identical. One from Mondawmin Neighborhood Improvement Association, the other one from Greater Mondawmin Coordinating Council. It states that please consider that, first they say that they cite the actual code that this case is requesting variances for. And then it says, please consider that 1 block away to the east, a dwelling is being converted into a 20-unit apartment complex, and 10 units are proposed for 1 block away to the south. Parking in the neighborhood is already congested and will be greatly impacted once these complexes are complete. Lastly, no one was aware that the property was ever rezoned for multi-dwelling. No one in the community ever saw a sign posting by previous owner for zoning approval hearing of multi-dwelling conversion, so the current sign posting stated the purpose for a permit to continue to use as a multifamily dwelling is misleading. We want a strong and vibrant neighbor. The new owner of the property has not demonstrated that his multi-unit dwelling will blend in well or maintain the community standards. Additionally, there's a letter from Councilman Leon Pinkett from the this district, saying that I'm writing this in support of the Mandama Neighborhood Improvement Association on their opposition of this appeal. A lack of adequate parking for the unit and lack of notice to the community on the rezoning of the property. I believe in the community's ability to determine the validity of new property owners in their neighborhood and support them in deciding against a property they believe will not fit community standards.
Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this property is in the R7 zoning district. And in that particular district, if a property was to be converted from a single-family use to a multifamily use, that would require an ordinance of the mayor and city council, according to the present terms of the zoning code. More specifically, the department reviewed available records, which were somewhat limited, and noted that there had appeared to be an attempt by a previous owner to complete a rehabilitation of the premises in the 2007 to 2008 period, but there was no use and occupancy permit issued for 2 dwelling units following expiration of various construction permits, including one for separate electric meters. On that basis, the department believes that the provisions of Section 18-412B of the zoning code would apply here, which is whenever the active and continuous use of a dwelling unit in a non-conforming multifamily structure subject to this section has been discontinued for 12 consecutive months. The discontinuance constitutes an abandonment of the dwelling unit, regardless of any reservation of an intent to resume active use or to reoccupy the unit or otherwise not abandon it. And the number of dwelling units allowed to continue in the structure is reduced by 1. This particular building is a non-conforming structure because for 2 dwelling units, there would be a requirement to have 2,200 square feet of lot area. This lot only provides 1,880 square feet, so it does not meet the zoning code requirement for 2 dwelling units. The department therefore recommends disapproval of the application because the board is not authorized to approve conversion of a single-family dwelling to a multifamily dwelling in the R7 zoning district where the property is located. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Core, you heard from the planning department.
Yes.
Can you address those points, please?
First was the parking, which I've always showed him. There is parking, adequate parking in the back, 2 cars. You only need 36 feet. We have enough to have 2 units, so it's enough for 2 parking spaces in the back. Since 1960, it was a 2-unit dwelling. Before that, it was a 3-unit dwelling. The only reason why it was converted to single family is because it did go vacant. And because of a rule that was opposed, it went back to a single family. But before that, and when I purchased it, which I show him the plans that show existing, is currently a 2-unit space. So 2 single families can go in.
Okay. Let's hear from your opposition.
Yes. I'm representing the neighborhood.
State your name, please.
Excuse me. Clayton Ellerby, representing Mandama Neighborhood Improvement Association. As stated in our letter and supported by our umbrella group and our council member, we have neighbors that have been living in that area for 40, 50 years, have never seen multi-dwellings. There was never any signs posted by the previous owner. Matter of fact, we had grievances against the previous owner doing his conversions and the way that he went about it. I did personally reach out to the new owner. Unfortunately, it sounds like our messaging was crossed. But now we're offering an invitation to her to come to the neighborhood association so that we can address both how we can support each other with her purchase of the property.
Okay. Mr. Core, the problem that I see is that, as Mr. French said, I don't think this board has the authority under the current law to do what you're asking us to do. If you have any theories or arguments to the contrary, I'd be happy to listen to you, but I don't see the authority of this board to be able to do that, even if we wanted to.
Right, it's just that when I brought the home in auction, so when I went in, I'm viewing 2-unit, 2-dwelling home. When I spoke to the title company and when the seller across from me, they assured me it's a 2-unit home. It was sold to me as a 2-unit home. So when I'm going in to make the adjustments to make it a better 2-unit home, because they wasn't using the back as parking, but because I can't get a parking permit, I can't get a building permit, I can't do the construction necessary to show the neighborhood that this would not be an eyesore, it would not take away any parking. I was even trying to purchase the home next to it that's been vacant. He can even assure you for a long period of time. I have had some communication with him only in passing. I have a partner that was looking over the property that he contacted. As soon as something happened, I was right there when I was known about, and I was aware of it. This being a 2-unit will only help the neighborhood. It brings 2 families. I've already showed him it's not going to all the previous issues that me and him had addressed that happened. He saw my plans. He saw how it was set up. And the biggest issue that they was talking about was the parking, which I've addressed.
So you had testified that the property at some point had been used for 3 dwelling units, and then it was
3
reduced down to...
dwelling units in the 1950s. I submitted it with my paperwork to the zoning for my hearing. It was only till 1960 that it was changed to do 2 dwellings. And it's only showing 2 dwelling units on that notice that I received from the zoning department until it went vacant in '06.
But what did you submit to support that?
I submit the document that was given to me from zoning when I went to fill out my paperwork for the hearing. It was submitted with the photo to prove that I posted the picture. They told me it goes in the young lady and I believe the supervisor at the desk.
But what kind of document was that? I mean, was it a permit? Was it like a photocopy,
It
an old
was
zoning card?
That's what it is. It was a card. It was a zoning card summarizing the use of the actual dwelling with the address on the top.
Do we have anything in the file?
We do not.
It was submitted with the picture of my proof. So if you receive the proof of my posting, it's the exact same email.
We just don't have that, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
It might have been on a, if you have a copy of that.
I have the date that I've sent it. I do have a copy, but it's the zoning summary card.
Yeah,
That's
so we have a
exactly what it
copy
is.
of your posting notice. Might it have been on the back that just didn't get scanned or something?
No, it was a totally different attachment that was sent on June 24th.
May I see that? 'Cause it just concerns me that we don't have that in the record.
That card along with that form there.
But can you open up any kind of attachment that would have that zoning card?
You see at the top, it started as a 3-unit dwelling. 3D, and until 1960 became 2D.
So, Mr. Chairman, just for the record, I'm looking at a copy of a zoning card from the city of Baltimore at the address of 1634 Gwynns Falls Parkway. At the time this card was prepared, it was in an R8 zoning district. The earliest entry is from October 11th, 1957, LA for 3 dwelling units. Has further entries, 1960, 1961, also for 3 dwelling units. I believe that says certificate for occupancy filed for 2 dwelling units, 1966, and then a 2 dwelling unit permit was issued on November 9th, 1966. Vacant house notice was issued in 2006. The code at that time would have made the property revert back to single family. That code provision was deleted from the zoning code and no longer impacts the property. So even if a vacant building notice was issued in the 2000s, correct, it would not apply today. Right. We apologize for not having this in the file. I'm not sure what happened to that.
So 2 dwelling units would still be permitted use based on that zoning code?
That's correct. What email was that sent to, ma'am?
I made sure I had this attached with that. Michael.Barb@baltimorecity.gov.
Okay. We'll check it out. Thank you.
So I think what we'll do with this case is we'll research this a little more and look at it. We won't reach a decision on your case today. We will next time we convene after we look at the file and see what we have.
When I brought the properties under receivership only gave me 6 months to come into Baltimore and take the vacancies to make it more pleasant for the neighborhood. Because of me having to get plans. As you know, an architect can't just whip them out. That extended the time. Even waiting until today, my hearing for the receivership, unfortunately, is tomorrow. I know you can't come to an agreement at that time, but is there any way I can go in with assuring them that I will be able to obtain a permit? Because I already have all the materials ready, all the guys ready to go in to fix it up. I even tried to get a permit or talk to the permit office just to get a gate in the back to satisfy the neighborhood, because one of his issues was because of the gate is wooden, vacant properties can be broken into.
Is
So
this
I
your
wanted
first
to
year?
secure it. Yes.
You'll be able to ask for a postponement if it's your first hearing.
Okay.
And they're gonna wanna work with you the way it
Yeah,
normally
Mr.
works.
Farley has been. Mr. Philip Farley is who I've been working with.
They
all the
normally wanna
documents
work
he
with
sends
you.
in. Okay.
And you haven't signed a consent agreement with them yet?
No.
Then I think you should be fine.
And just tell them exactly what happened here. You appeared before the zoning board. We, the board, needed to do a little more research.
Okay. Because he sent me an email, let me know he did see that, because we've been working together. He's telling me he's pretty much helped me with all the steps that I need, even though he's on the other side, because he knows what my plans are.
Yeah.
I showed him what the plans were to come in and fix the neighborhood.
Okay.
So we will provide an email?
I'm not sure we're going to provide an email. I think you can represent that you appeared here today and that we are looking at it, and if they wish to confirm it, they can certainly contact Mr. Baumgartner.
And we routinely confirm those things between the city law department and housing and the district court. That they routinely call us to make sure or to check in to see if there's an appeal pending or the results of an appeal. So
Okay.
anyone is welcome to call our office to confirm that we have the appeal and that it was heard today.
Okay, because he told me after I leave here, I'll come across the street and talk to him anyway, so I'll let him know
Yeah.
the outcome today.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
It's a secret zoning card. It's, the whole thing's it's on a
Just gonna do a little switch real quick. Calling the next case is 2019-217, 102 South Washington Street. Kathleen McDonald.
Was that consent? It was consent?
Consent, I'm sorry.
Yes, correct. We wanted
Never mind.
219.
Done. Moving on, case number 2019-219, 3300 Clipper Mill Road. Nick Showman.
Hi, guys.
Afternoon, Mr. Showman. We have this, Mr. Showman, to use portion of first floor as restaurant with live entertainment, outdoor dining, and catering. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Raise your hand. Swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Okay, do we have any staff reports?
Yes, thank you. Planning Department reviewed this application. It describes live entertainment. It also describes steps to be taken to provide soundproofing in the building. It does not include a statement relating to a security plan, and the department believes that the applicant, given the capacity of the restaurant being 185 persons, should provide the board additional information concerning security during live entertainment events. That said, the department recommends approval of the application be subject to these conditions, in addition to conditions which the board may establish. A copy of the use and occupancy permit for the premises must be kept on the premises and available for inspection by representatives of Baltimore City at all times. A copy of the written approval of the board of the live entertainment provided on the premises, including details of any restrictions or limitations on live entertainment provided, must be kept on the premises and available for inspection by representatives of Baltimore City at all times. And a copy of all other permits and licenses required pursuant to the written approval of the board must be kept on the premises and available for inspection by representatives of Baltimore City at all times. Thank you.
Mr. Showman, having heard those conditions by planning, are those conditions agreeable to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Why don't you tell us about your project and also discuss, if you would, the issue of security?
Okay. A couple months ago, my lawyer and I, Mr. Catelli, came in and we applied and were granted or approved for our liquor license. Now we're a couple months away from opening, so we're back to get a live entertainment to have that applied to our liquor license. This is going to be our flagship restaurant. We have an oyster farm in St. Mary's County and a couple other oyster bars in Baltimore. This is going to be a step up from what we're used to. 150-seat restaurant, give or take. Half of the building, and you can see in the floor plan, will be a bar area. The other half of the building will be more of a fine dining. And what we are looking to do is to have occasional live entertainment on the bar side, probably on weekends, while people eat oysters, drink beer, wine. And we're also planning on using the dining portion of the restaurant. It will be able to be rented out for weddings and special occasions. So that's probably when we would want to have some live entertainment on that side of the building. As far as security, we're not really looking to have concerts per se, more just background music while people dine, brunch sort of stuff. So our management team will be working with all of our staff. Everyone will be trained. We will have well-capable managers on site at all times. That said, if we do decide to do something a little larger, which we don't foresee, we could surely hire some security for an event of that size, but it's really not what we're going for. We're a restaurant.
Okay. With regard to the live entertainment, you mentioned, are you confining it to the weekends at this point, or just as needed?
As needed. We don't plan on doing it 5 days a week, 6 days a week. We will be closed on Mondays, but we are planning on having several special events over the course of the week. So depending on who's using the space and what the event calls for, we may want to have a band on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, but.
Okay. And let me ask, with regard to the time during which the band would play, what time will the restaurant close on?
Right now, we're looking, our hours are 4 to 11. I think we've got in here 1 o'clock, again, just in case an event kind of goes a little longer than we plan. If we were to have live music on the weekends, it would definitely be over by midnight, if not earlier.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Do you grow the skinny dippers?
We do.
Nice oyster.
Thank you. Come down to the farm sometime.
Thanks.
It's a nice menu.
Yeah, it is.
We're working with Chef Zach Mills as one of the partners in this project, so he's excited, we're excited, and construction's coming along. We're looking at, I'm not even going to say, because you know what happens when you say that.
Exactly. All right, very well. Anything else you'd like to add?
Thank you for hearing me out.
All right, thank you for your presentation.
Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
Now we're at 220, right? All right, case number 2019-220, 500 South Broadway, 502 South Broadway, and 504 South Broadway. Mr. Prudhoe?
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir.
Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, Mr. Prudhoe, we are here where the request is to consolidate lots, construct new 5-story addition, and use as 18 dwelling units with first-floor commercial. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Do you have any staff reports?
Yes, Planning Department reviewed this application, noted that this site is located in the Fells Point Historic District, and therefore any of the proposed improvements mentioned in this application are also subject to review and approval by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation. There were no floor plans available to the department to review, so the department made an advisory comment concerning the possibility of a variance needed for a setback at the rear of the property, but we're unable to determine if that actually is necessary in this situation. The department recommends that approval of the application be subject to the condition that all improvements, alterations, additions, and signage are completed or installed in accordance with an authorization to proceed issued by the Commission for Historical and Architectural Preservation. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Prettle, having heard those conditions offered by planning, if we were to rule favorably on your application, are they acceptable to you?
Absolutely.
Okay, just tell us about your project, Mr. Prettle.
Sure. So I think.
And Mr. Prettle, if you can also just give the board an understanding of the history of this property, number one, and number two, why floor plans weren't provided with the application as well.
Sure.
Thank you.
So I guess first regarding the floor plans, you should have a copy in your file. I'm not sure why they wouldn't be there. They were submitted along with the application. I even had an email from BMZA staff.
I have a floor plan.
Yes.
So we have
Okay. Are we good on floor plans? All right. So thank you, Mr. Baumgartner. This is important to review this application in context of some of the history that Mr. Baumgartner mentions. So first of all, this is two separate tax lots, 502 through 504 South Broadway, or 500 through 502, as well as 504 South Broadway. 504 South Broadway is an existing adult entertainment establishment known as the Ritz Cabaret, and 500 through 502 is a vacant lot. It's been a vacant lot since 2010 when the existing historic structure collapsed. Frankly, I remember when I lived on South Patterson Park Avenue walking to work downtown with the bricks in the middle of Eastern and Broadway. And since then, several years had passed. The city had a consent order with the previous owner, who is still the current owner, to build something there. Almost anything that he would build would likely require zoning board approval, and anything would require CHAP approval. This is in the local CHAP Fells Point Historic District, so any plans will require full approval by the commission. About 5 years ago, there was a proposal to build what was proposed as a steakhouse restaurant that faced significant community opposition. In full disclosure, my firm, AB Associates, was hired by the Fells Point Community Organization to oppose that proposal, and it was shot down at the liquor store, at the liquor board. I think there was a belief at the time that it was not going to be a steakhouse and would be an expansion of the adult entertainment. And just be very clear that this proposal does not include any expansion of the adult entertainment, and it is primarily a residential apartment building with a first floor commercial space only on the 500 through 502, with a tenant, to be determined at a much later date, assuming we would get building permits and go through the HCD process. And there's another show cause hearing next month. Mr. Mel Kadinsky is representing the owner on that behalf. He had a hearing about 2 months ago. We told him of this hearing. And since then, I've made a presentation to the Fells Point Residents Association. The Fells Point Task Force has also reviewed the proposal, and there have been no objections that I have heard of. I had a conversation with Councilman Cohen's office this morning. They haven't heard of anything yet. And I will mention the plans that moving forward from a design standpoint will probably look very different from what's approved here today. We need zoning approval for the use and for the bulk of the building. And in particular, we're asking for a minimum lot area variance. As you mentioned, this is an absolutely unique site for several reasons. One, the historic requirements that are placed on top of the zoning provide a level of uniqueness, as well as the fact that you have half of the site with a historic structure that can't be touched or altered, essentially, and then a new construction building next to it. So these are, I think, 15 one-bedroom or studio units and 2 3-bedroom units. We're asking for a lot area variance of roughly 13%. I mean, the planning department has ruled that that is not an quote, excessive variance. I would agree with them. We could do 15 2, 3, or 4-bedroom units as of right and not even be here for a lot area variance. The way that the building is oriented in relation to the historic structure, the additions proposed, it calls for smaller units, and it just works much better with the unit variety that we've proposed, and that's the reason that we're asking for this lot area variance. I would urge the board to approve this application so we can start working with CHAP staff, and which will probably be multiple CHAP hearings, both a concept approval and ultimately a final design approval, so that the owner can get a building permit and keep his property and have a successful project at this site. This is an extremely important site for Fells Point. It's really half of the gateway to Fells Point proper as you come down Broadway. The building on the east side of Eastern and Broadway is one, in my opinion, one of the most beautiful buildings in Fells Point with the spire on top. It's above a liquor store. Some of you are probably familiar with it. And it is part of the thinking for the height of this building, which is within zoning, is to match what's on the other side of Eastern and Broadway. And we really look forward to having full buy-in from not only this board, but CHAP, as well as HCD, and having something fill this hole that's been there for now almost 10 years.
The first floor, a commercial space, will that be a commercial use that would be permitted in the SC1 district?
Absolutely.
Presumably?
Yeah.
And the property, just to orient myself here, the consolidated lots will make this one lot that will be fronting on Broadway, correct?
That's correct. Although the majority of the property line for 500 through 502 is along Eastern Avenue. So from a design perspective, it's important to have, a significant level of, attention and detail for that, because has a much larger frontage along Eastern Avenue. So, but yes, the orientation will be towards Broadway.
And the existing adult entertainment business, there will be no structural interplay between that business and the proposed apartment building next to it, correct? There won't be a door, there won't be access, it'll be straight wall from front lot line all the way to the rear.
That's correct, and this is a completely separate project than the adult entertainment, and there would be a number of zoning and liquor license issues that would come up if the owner were to ever, which I would suggest that he would not entertain expanding the adult entertainment use just due to the history of the project.
Then lastly, what's the need to consolidate the lots? Like, why not keep them separate lots?
Well, we're building on top of the existing structure at 504 South Broadway, and the lot area and number of units is very different if you are not counting the lot on 504. And it's not any disingenuous to do that, because half of the lots, or half of the units, or say a third of the units, will be on what is now 504 South Broadway.
So, to help me get oriented, this photo, that's a portion of the application, and I recognize you said that it's going to look a lot different ultimately than sort of what's presented here, but this wall effectively will be pushed back over top of 504.
That wall will be blocked because there will be a structure on this. The owner, prior to my firm's involvement in this, did get a building permit for something and constructed what you see here.
Okay.
And which you can understand no one is happy with, the community or the city. And there really is a sense of urgency, not that that affects anything the board's going to do, but for the owner, the sense of urgency to get some building permits, because this has been sitting like this for too long, and it is a very important site for Fells Point.
Mr. Chairman, just when this property was inspected for purposes of signposting, it's a very, very nice neighborhood. There's a lot of positive things going on. This particular lot with this particular falling down strange structure is certainly a blight in that area.
Thank you. Any further questions from the board?
None from me.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, we are on the last case, I believe, on the agenda, which is 2019-222.
This me? All right. You're correct. 2019-222, 3006 Hamilton Avenue.
Anthony Taylor.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Let's get you all sworn in.
Raise your right hands, please. Swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I did.
Good. State your names for the record, please.
Anthony Taylor.
And Mr. Taylor, we have this used portion of first floor as driving school. Is that correct?
Correct.
Great. Do we have any staff reports?
I have a letter of opposition from the Glenham Belhar Community Association. It says, we ask that you deny the appeal for driving school usage. 3006 Hamilton Avenue is zone C1. Driving schools fall within the definition of educational facility, commercial vocational under the zoning code, which specifically cites driving schools as an example of this type of usage. A school conducted as a commercial enterprise such as a driving school. Educational facility, commercial vocational are not permitted or as it listed as a conditional use in the C1 zoned area. Further, under the Hamilton Urban Renewal Plan, street-facing ground floor uses must be primarily retail or service establishments that deal directly with consumers, rely heavily on walk-in business, and have regular daily hours. So even if a driving school was permitted or a conditional use under the zoning code, which it is not, the Hamilton URP would appear to also not allow such a usage in a specific location. This is signed from Ann Yastrzemski, the president of the Glenham-Belhar Community Association.
Great.
Planning Department reviewed this application. A number of the criteria mentioned in the letter you just had read out into the record were also picked up in the Planning Department's review of this particular appeal. The department believes that this proposed driving school would not qualify in a C1 zoning district for approval by the board. The department recommends disapproval of the application if the board determines that the proposed use is a type of educational facility, commercial vocational, which is a prohibited use in the C1 zoning district where this property is located. And if the board determines that non-conforming use of the property previously as a trade school has been discontinued or abandoned in accordance with provisions of the zoning code. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Taylor, you heard the Planning Department. Could you address the points raised by them?
Yes. So one, it said they will allow us to have an educational facility if it was post-secondary. So what we did, we conducted a needs assessment in the area, and pretty much is to benefit the community. We will rely heavily on foot traffic, as we will put signs out front, and we'll get mostly walk-in people for a driving school. So as I was looking through the code, I didn't see anything that specifically stated that it would preclude us from having a driving school in a specific location. Because as I looked, it said that you will allow for a restaurant to have a drive-in, or you were certain things that stipulated that actually were allowed. So I didn't see anything, and I gave them a picture with the parking lot, show them that we had adequate parking, and it wouldn't affect the neighborhood at all, and everything will be conducted inside. So,
Well, excuse me one second. Mr. French, would you address the question that was raised here that there's nothing in the code?
Yeah, the problem is what's in the code specifically of concern in this case is a definition which is contained in section 1-305X of the zoning code, and it defines educational facility, commercial vocational, in part with this quotation, means a school conducted as a commercial enterprise such as a driving school.
So we do have that code section to deal with.
right, but I didn't, well, I may have missed it. I didn't see it specifically preclude a driving school. So it had certain things in the code, but that part, it didn't specifically leave out a driving school. And then they also put in here that if we were using it as an educational facility post-secondary, they wouldn't have any problems with that. Technically, a driving school is kind of like post-secondary. People need to go to driving school. They took it out of the school system now. So that would be a part of a post-secondary education.
Okay. All right. Are you finished? I'll let your opposition
okay.
state their position.
Mike Hilliard, the Community Services Director of the Harbell Community Organization. My testimony would reiterate the letter from the Glen and Belhar Community Association and Mr. French's, as we too take the position that this use is neither board nor council conditional in a C1 zoning district, and it is also not in conformance with the Hamilton Urban Renewal Plan, which is a city ordinance.
Okay.
Okay, and so what we're trying to do in the Hamilton area is trying to help revitalize that portion, because that building sat dormant and vacant for a long amount of time. So what we're trying to do is we're trying to help the community, we're trying to uplift the community, we're trying to bring something to the community that wasn't there. So we've spoken with the people in the community association, and they didn't have a problem with us having a driving school there. So that would be our issue, that we're really trying to help the community. It was an eyesore. If you look at the building now, it looks totally different from how it was, and it was just sitting there, and it was just vacant, and it was an eyesore. So what we did was we're trying to revitalize the neighborhood. We're trying to bring something to that community that wasn't there before. So we're really just trying to help the community. That's all we're trying to do.
Yeah, and I hear you, and I applaud your efforts, especially with the vacant building in Baltimore. We are, however, subject to the Baltimore City Zoning Code, and that's the authority upon which this board operates. So we can't exceed or go beyond the authority that's given to us in the zoning code. So that's just to understand, so you understand where we're coming from.
Correct.
Any questions from the board?
No, I just do a very, very brief follow-up that the zoning code provides different type of educational institutions, then defines what is considered under those different kind of educational institutions. And much to the chagrin of some of our zoning staff, driving school is specifically listed as commercial vocational, which is just not allowed in the zoning district.
So my question would be then, if we weren't charging for the driving school and we were providing a service?
Doesn't matter. No. A driving school is a driving school is a driving school. If you're teaching people how to drive, whether it's for free, whether it's for volunteer, whether it's for a fee, it would be included as a driving school. And again, if there was some flexibility with the type of driving school, that may be an easier road to hoe for an applicant, but the zoning code expressly says that a driving school just isn't allowed in this particular zoning district, unfortunately.
And as much as we may like to take a project like yours and say, boy, this sounds great, we'd like to help you out, we're bound by the zoning code. That's as far as we can go.
Excuse me, my name is Kim Cooper. I'm one of the owners of Best Choice Driving School. I just want to know if there's some type of variance or some type of thing we can do to get the code changed.
You would, to get the code changed, you would go to the city council.
Okay. Okay.
Talk to your city council person and, see if there's any relief there that could be provided to you.
Right, because there's several driving schools within close proximity of what we're trying to do.
Mhm.
All right.
You can also talk to the president of city council.
Pardon?
The president and the city council.
Okay,
Is
thank you.
Another option.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And that ends the docket for today.